Finally, Joker Part 2 Folia Ado was recently released, and the big question we're all asking ourselves is, will this sequel live up to its predecessor? The answer seems obvious, right? But be careful, because this movie is not what we all expected. Joker 2 drags us back into chaos, but this time the descent is even deeper and more disturbing. Arthur Fleck, who is no longer just a man but the living symbol of chaos, returns with more anger, more madness, and more tragedy, now of course, accompanied by his faithful companion. This sequel goes beyond what we imagined, challenging the boundaries of sanity and taking us into the dark heart of Gotham. Failed comedian Arthur Fleck meets the love of his life, Harley Quinn, while in Arkham State Hospital. Upon their release, the pair embark on a romantic adventure. Brace yourselves, because what you are about to see is the purest embodiment of anarchy, and not everyone will be ready for what is coming. Joker Folia Ado begins with a series of dazzling animations of the Joker, announcing the show entitled Me and My Shadow. Amidst an atmosphere of luxury and glamour, we observe the Joker, elegant and sophisticated, walking down a red carpet. As he moves forward, his figure transforms into a shadow as he passionately kisses his co-worker. With a determined step, he heads towards the stage, where he awaits his turn to appear before an expectant audience. Without further delay, he is introduced to the crowd under the imposing name of the Joker. At that moment, they burst onto the stage, unfolding their extravagant show and captivating everyone with their unique style. Meanwhile, tensions rise when a group of police officers arrive on the scene. They steadily walk down the red carpet, advancing towards the stage in search of the Joker. Finally, they find him, and without warning, they brutally attack him, giving him a merciless beating and leaving him lying on the floor completely motionless. Now we enter the gloomy and disturbing Arkham Asylum, where the heartbreaking screams of the most Machiavellian villains in the DC Comics universe resonate through the corridors. We find ourselves in Pavilion E. We once again encounter the emaciated and crumbling Arthur Fleck, a man beaten down by the weight of his existence. With his eyes downcast and his body hunched, Arthur is escorted by Officer Jackie Sullivan, who almost drags him to a bathroom where he is allowed to give himself a rudimentary cleanup. After a bit of a cleanup, he is returned to his cell, where he is forced to prepare and change clothes, as his lawyer is waiting for him. Arthur has spent so much time in this place that even the officers can't stand him anymore. The minutes pass by slowly, until, without any consideration, the guards decide to skip the line of patients waiting patiently, allowing him to receive his daily dose of pills as if it were just another routine procedure. After that, they give him a cold and austere beard trim. During the process, the officers do not miss the opportunity to make fun of him. Amid malicious laughter, they ask him to tell one of his famous jokes, reminding him that he has not done so for a long time. Arthur, faithful to his state of depression, chooses silence, preferring not to feed his humiliation. But those who end up telling jokes of poor quality are the officers themselves. Jackie, in a dismissive tone, comments that all Arthur has done since arriving at the asylum is smile like an idiot. This is the dark and captivating premise of Joker 2. Now we meet Arthur Fleck again, walking under the custody of the officers on a gray and gloomy morning, where the heavy air reflects the darkness that surrounds him. As they escort him away, the officers reveal a disturbing piece of information. At the end of the first film, Arthur has murdered 5 people, and one of them was eliminated live on national television. Amid this grim scenario, an enigmatic figure appears for the first time, a woman whose presence hints at what is to come. It is who seems to be Harley Quinn, who with a wry smile comes to meet Arthur and playfully simulates shooting herself in the head. The tense scene is interrupted by the officers who promptly drag him to his lawyer. In the conference room, his lawyer explains that they are going to meet with Dr. Deborah Kane, who will be conducting a crucial evaluation to determine whether Arthur is mentally competent to stand trial. If the diagnosis is in his favor, he will be sent to an intensive care psychiatric hospital instead of remaining there surrounded by criminals and thugs. In a warning tone, she mentions that Dr. Kane is convinced that Arthur suffers from deep traumas from childhood. She even suggests that in his mind he is not alone, that there is another person inside him, someone else who may have been the real author of the crimes he committed. And so we come to the key moment, Arthur's interview with Dr. Deborah Kane. Sitting face to face, the doctor invites him to be honest and detailed, asking him to tell her everything as precisely as possible. She begins by asking him about the 3 men who attacked him on the subway, looking for some link to his past, something that had caused him pain in his childhood. Arthur, true to form, chooses silence and does not answer. The doctor, unfazed, changes the focus and questions him about the person he murdered one night, that is, Mary Franklin, when he appeared dressed as the Joker and danced with disturbing happiness. Here, for the first time, Arthur breaks his silence and answers, explaining that it was because of the music, that those melodies reminded him of the moments he shared with his mother, and that he still hears her voice in his head, like a constant echo in his mind. After this revelation, Dr. Kane deduces that the Joker figure, that dark and dominant part of Arthur, became stronger and more present after the death of his mother. Intrigued by this duality, she asks him to let the Joker out and talk to her directly. The next day, a boy at the asylum approaches him curiously, and with a certain innocence asks him how it feels to kiss, since he has never kissed anyone. Arthur, without saying a word, responds unexpectedly. He gives him a quick kiss, leaving the young man in a state of shock, trying to process what has happened. The scene is strange and uncomfortable, but revealing of Arthur's unpredictability. Later, the officers, true to their usual cruelty, once again mock him with their absurd jokes. However, the Joker remains silent and indifferent, but one of the officers makes a comment that resonates in his mind. He suggests that he should feel like a star since they filmed a movie about him, and everyone sees him as a celebrity. This comment leaves a deep impression on Arthur. Later, we see him taking his daily pills, but his mind can't stop thinking about what the officer told him. The idea of being a star, of being seen and admired, begins to germinate in his mind, further fueling Arthur's transformation into the Joker. A new day dawns in the gloomy asylum, and an officer approaches Arthur Fleck to say good morning, with a routine that seems more mechanical than human. He is taken to the other inmates, who at that moment are gathered together and singing. Now it is Arthur's turn to become part of that atmosphere. He is assigned music lessons in the hope that, among the melodies, he will find a sense of peace and fulfillment. The guards ask only one thing of him, that he be free, that he join the other patients and sing with them. Among the group, Arthur once again exchanges glances with the girl we saw earlier. Intrigued, she asks if he's him. Arthur approaches and the young woman introduces herself as Lee. Without thinking twice, Arthur confesses that he killed 5 people, the last one on live national television. Although in reality there were 6, as he also killed his mother, something that no one else knows. Lee, without losing her composure, tells him that she has seen the film they made about him at least 20 times, and that she loved it. She is a fan of him. Taking advantage of the conversation, she tells him a little of her own story. Her father beat her constantly until she died. Years later, he burned down the building where she lived. As a result, her mother put her in the asylum. Lee confesses something else to him. When she saw him on TV with Murray Franklin, she wished he would blow her brains out. And when he did that, for the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone in the world. He felt that they both shared something dark, something in common. The conversation is abruptly interrupted when Jackie, the officer, appears to take Arthur to take his daily pills, as if it were another day in this endless cycle. Later, Arthur makes the news again. The results of his interview have revealed that he is mentally competent to stand trial, and the prosecution has decided to seek the death penalty. This news quickly spreads through the asylum, becoming a source of ridicule among the other inmates. But Arthur, unperturbed, begins to sing, seeking to free himself through music. His melody is so catchy that, without realizing it, everyone around him begins to follow along, creating a moment of apparent harmony. For the first time in a long time, Arthur feels loved and accepted by others. However, this feeling of acceptance and liberation is nothing more than a fantasy inside his mind. In fact, Arthur hasn't said a single word. The scene fades out, and the next thing we see is Arthur, badly bound in the rain, subjected to cruel punishment, his body hunched and his spirit increasingly broken as the storm bears down on him. Arthur Fleck contacts his lawyer and tells her that all week reporters have been there because they want to see him and talk to him. But the lawyer tells him that he has to wait, because before the trial, he will have an official interview. In the meantime, Arthur will go to see a movie like a normal person. Just as he is watching the movie, Lee asks him to go out for a while, but Arthur does not agree, because if he goes out, he will be shot. Because of this, Lee goes back for a moment and starts a fire. She then calmly returns to Arthur's side. However, when they notice the fire, they run away from there. But not before giving each other a good kiss. Together, they manage to escape from Arkham Asylum like real crazy people. And that's how Arthur has his first date. Together, they dance and laugh in the streets. But no, they don't really escape from Arkham Asylum. They are just celebrating early outside the hospital. When they approach the bars, the reporters take pictures of them, and finally, they return to the asylum, but are now punished, although they don't care and just laugh like crazy. Now we're in a dream world at the Arkham Hotel, where we see the Joker dancing with Harley Quinn happily and contently, but it was just a dream of Arthur's. It turns out that Lee had gone to visit him because one of the officers let her in and told him that she didn't have much time left. They're going to send her home because they say that he's not a good influence on her. However, they have to look on the bright side so that she can go to his trial and see him every day until she's free. The scene becomes even more intimate when Lee makes the decision to slowly apply makeup to Arthur, transforming him into the Joker. As she paints him, she whispers to him that she wants to see the real Arthur Fleck, the man behind the mask. Once she finishes her work, the two kiss, and in the privacy of the moment, their connection intensifies even further, leading them to share an unbridled passion. Later, the Joker meets with his lawyer. She informs him that Lee has already left the asylum and is now giving interviews about both of them. But now it is Arthur's turn. She makes it clear to him that for the official interview he must behave like a normal person, not like the Joker, but like Arthur Fleck. Determined, Arthur prepares for the interview, and before leaving, in an unexpected gesture, he gives his lawyer a kiss of thanks. During the interview, Patty recounts Arthur's crimes, pointing out that in a span of 4 weeks, he killed 5 people. He asks him what happened the night he killed Murray Franklin on live television. Arthur coldly replies that he was only thinking about killing himself that night, and that Murray, in his opinion, was just part of his act, although, according to him, a bad actor. As Arthur says he wants to kill himself, Patty asks him if he still wants to die, because he will have the death penalty and will get what he wants. But Arthur Fleck says that that is the past, and he does not want that anymore. Then Arthur starts telling him that he's not really interested. He thinks he's not, that he's just like Murray. He only wants to talk about his mistakes, about everything he did in the past, not about how he is now, about how different he is now. Because of this, Patty asks him, how has he changed? So Arthur tells him that he has someone special now, and of course, he's referring to Lee. Patty shows him a newspaper that the two of them got into the night they tried to escape. Seeing the photo, Arthur Fleck starts singing, saying in his song that he is in love, that he now has someone special who will sing to him, bring him spring, and that he held on to her very tightly. On the other side, we see Lee. Watching the interview, she breaks the windows of a shop and steals a television to take with her. The hours pass, and the day of the trial arrives. Arthur is taken to the court, where upon arriving, he passes through a crowd of followers and fans who are dressed as clowns in his honor. The trial is about to begin, and the Arkham recruits are also watching the trial live, while the judge introduces himself to everyone. Noticing Arthur looking around, the judge asks if he is okay. Arthur replies that he is, but that he is looking for someone. This response provokes laughter and mockery from those present in the courtroom. The trial begins, but meanwhile, outside, Harley Quinn has finally arrived. Although she is late, she has come to see Arthur. Lee enters the courtroom and exchanges glances with Arthur, both of them clearly showing love for each other. The opposing attorney then takes the stand. In his opinion, Arthur is not suffering from psychosis and believes he was in full possession of his mental faculties when he committed the crimes. According to him, Arthur is faking his psychiatric illness, and in reality, he only suffers from 4 problems: lack of empathy, depression, anxiety, and non-complex disorders. Here, Arthur's lawyer intervenes to ask how long Arthur's interview lasted. They tell her that it was close to 2 hours, but the lawyer, always attentive, knows that it was exactly 89 minutes and wonders how she can reach such a momentous conclusion in just 89 minutes without knowing what really happened in Arthur's life. The lawyer thinks about the traumas that Arthur has carried throughout his life, that he doesn't know that the government abandoned him, or that he was returned to the same place where he suffered his worst trauma when he was only a 7-year-old child, victim of sexual and psychological abuse, and believes that in order to survive, Arthur created a new identity, the Joker, a mask to protect that fragile inner child. Previously, when the 3 drunk men attacked him on the subway, that dark part, the Joker, emerged with force, justifying its existence as a defense mechanism. In the middle of the trial, an objection is made to present Arthur's private diary, where his stale jokes, fantasies, and details about the imaginary relationships he had with women were written. After the session, Lee approaches Arthur's lawyer and assures her that he is not sick, and promises that they will go out together and conquer the world, starting by making a mountain out of a molehill. Later, the lawyer confesses to Arthur that they have a good chance of winning the case, but that Lee could ruin everything. Arthur, true to his feelings, defends Lee, telling her that she understands him, that they have been through similar things, that her father beat her, and her mother institutionalized her. However, the lawyer reveals an uncomfortable truth. Lee has not been honest. She lives comfortably in the Northwest area with her parents. Her father is still alive, and she checked herself out of her own free will and then left whenever she wanted. The lawyer even asks him if Lee mentioned that she has a degree in psychiatry. She warns him that even though she knows what it's like to love someone, Arthur shouldn't believe a word she says. Despite this revelation, the plot takes an unexpected turn when Arthur imagines a musical show with Harley Quinn. In the middle of the show, Harley betrays him by shooting him, but this vivid scenario in his mind is not real, but a fantasy that Arthur constructs as he struggles with his thoughts. Just then, an officer informs him that Lee has come to visit him. When Arthur introduces himself to Lee, he does so with the certainty that he knows the whole truth. He confronts her, telling her that he already knows that she is the daughter of a doctor, that they did not grow up in the same neighborhood, and Lee accepts it, confessing that she only wanted to get on Arthur's good side. Arthur firmly clarifies that he is not a clown, but Lee assures him that everyone laughs at him in court, that his lawyer doesn't really care about him, but that she does. She also reveals that she has moved into an apartment in his building so that they can form a home together when he leaves the asylum. Although Arthur tells her that he does not want to live there, Lee, determinedly, tells him that she will, because she is pregnant. At the next court session, Miss Sophie Dumont is brought in and gives her statement. She relates that Arthur Fleck had entered her apartment when she was with her daughter, and is asked if Arthur, at that time, seemed different to her from the man she usually saw in the building. Dumont replies that she did not really know him. She had only seen him on a few occasions in the lobby or in the elevator. She also mentions that she knew his mother a little, who was very sweet to her daughter. She explains that she had not testified before because, after that incident, she decided to move in with her daughter to protect herself. Arthur's lawyer takes the stand and asks Dumont if the Arthur she saw that night on television dressed as the Joker seemed to be the same person who entered her apartment. Dumont denies that they were the same person, pointing out that on TV Arthur was dressed as a clown, which made him look completely different. Seizing the moment, Arthur's lawyer points out that while Arthur's mother was so kind to her daughter, she may have told her something about her son. Dumont recalls that Arthur's mother used to say that he had something strange, a goofy, sinister laugh. She even made up a story when Arthur was a child to make him feel better and stop him from taking his own life. The story was that he had come to Earth to be happy, which perhaps explained why Arthur dressed up as a street clown and dreamed of being a comedian. However, she thought that this story was absurd because Arthur was not funny at all. She also says that his mother told him that he never had a girlfriend and that he was still a virgin. At that moment, Arthur has an imaginary vision. He sees himself completely transformed into the Joker, killing everyone present while laughing insanely. But he soon returns to reality. Upon returning to the session, Arthur interrupts the testimony and makes a radical decision. He announces that he wants to be his own advocate, firing his lawyer. As a farewell, he gives her a kiss, symbolizing the end of that stage. The judge, surprised, grants Arthur's request, giving him the opportunity to represent himself at trial. Shortly afterward, Lee visits the nursing home and congratulates him on firing his lawyer and taking charge of his defense. Proud, she tells him that she is convinced that he has succeeded. Finally, Monday arrives, and Arthur's trial continues. New witness Gary Puddles is called to testify. He witnessed Arthur brutally stabbing Randall and tells how it happened. As he finishes his testimony, Arthur takes the stand and mockingly makes fun of Puddles' last name. He then asks him if, when he saw him stab Randall, he looked crazy, or if he looked like someone else, implying that what he saw was something crazy. Puddles, visibly shaken, replies that Arthur really did look like someone else, someone completely different. He admits that what happened has caused him deep pain. He still can't sleep. He lives in constant fear, and he has never felt such intense fear before. The hardest thing for him is to accept that Arthur, someone who had never made fun of him and had always treated him well, has become such a terrifying person. It pains him to see how Arthur, someone who was once kind to him, has transformed into the Joker. Gary Puddles' testimony concludes, and with no more witnesses for the prosecution and no more defense from Arthur, both sides present their closing arguments. After this, the judge announces a recess until the next day at 9 a.m. The Joker, full of his usual chaotic energy, meets up with Harley Quinn, and together they start another musical full of delirium, reaffirming their promise to build a mountain. Hours pass, and back in Arkham, the Joker, feeling powerful, tells the officers that he is now a lawyer and that he will take them to court. But they, without hesitation, brutally beat him as punishment for having insulted them live during the trial when he called them fat officers. After the beating, he is dumped. On Monday morning, Arthur returns to court, this time dressed as the Joker again. The impatient judge tells him that this is not a circus and that he must behave. So Arthur, tired of the masks and the spectacle that his life has become, speaks up. With a broken voice, he confesses that he intended to dress up as the Joker to explode in anger and blame the whole world for his miserable life. But something inside him has changed. He declares that he doesn't care anymore, that he's tired of trying to be who others want him to be. Arthur reveals that it's all been a fantasy, a construction in his mind to survive. He finally confesses that the Joker doesn't exist. It's just him, Arthur Fleck. With bitter honesty, he admits that he really did murder 6 people, not just the 5 that everyone is aware of. He also killed his mother, suffocating her with a pillow until she stopped breathing. Now he says he doesn't know what else to do. He's lost, and he just wants to send it all to hell and start a new life. Harley Quinn, hearing this confession, is deeply disappointed. Without saying a word, she gets up and leaves the court, looking at Arthur with disdain, as if her idol had fallen. At that moment, the break between them is definitive. Moments later, Arthur is given permission to make a call. He decides to contact Lee and ask her to come back, as the results of the trial will be announced in an hour, and he wants her to be there. While he waits, he sings her a song over the phone, a song that fades into the silence of the voicemail. Lee doesn't answer, but in the solitude of her room, we see that she hears every word. With tears in her eyes, she raises a gun and points it at her own head. When the time for the verdict finally arrives, the jury stands up and begins to speak, declaring Arthur guilty of all charges of murder. As the trial progresses, Arthur, amidst the tense silence, begins to laugh with his characteristic and disturbing sound. This silly and sinister laugh unleashes chaos in the courtroom. The courtroom is filled with screams and chaos until, unexpectedly, a bomb is thrown into the place. The roar is deafening, and in the blink of an eye, the courtroom explodes into pieces, plunged into a scene of total destruction. Then we see the whole place in shambles, with fire and stones everywhere. The courthouse is in ruins. Even the people who were present at the trial are injured. Arthur Fleck can barely move and runs out of the place. Outside, his fans dressed as the Joker are there and help him escape from there. However, the guys seem to be crazy. They just happen to hit a red light, so Arthur takes the opportunity to get out of the car and run away from them, even though they chase him. They don't catch him. Arthur Fleck now walks alone and sad until he finds Lee on some stairs. He tells her that they blew up the courthouse and that he is free now, so they have to go far away. He escaped, and now he wants to be with her. But Lee tells him that they are not going anywhere, that they had a fantasy, and she decided to give up. She tells him that he is not the same anymore, that the Joker does not exist, and that he himself said so. Arthur now cries and tells her that he can't live without her and that they should run away because they will have a baby. However, Lee starts singing, but Fleck doesn't want to sing. He wants to talk. When she finishes her song, she just says goodbye to him, and the police arrive to take him away. He is taken back to Arkham Asylum. Arthur was sad and disappointed with life. He didn't even feel like singing anymore. The officer arrives and tells him that he has a visitor. He reluctantly goes to see who it is. On the way, a recruit who looks very much like Jerome tells him a joke about a psychopath in a bar, and with that, he distracts him to stab him several times. With this, Arthur imagines the scenario where Harley Quinn betrays him and sings once more, saying in his song that he will succeed in building that mountain, and God will send Gabriel to take him away. Finally, he mentions that he wants a good son to take his place, and ends by saying that he will leave a son in his earthly paradise. This is how Joker 2 ends. Don't forget to comment, leave your like, and activate the bell so YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. Thank you. See you soon.